Unpopular opinion. The parasympathetic nervous system is the most underrated part of the autonomic nervous system. I know this video is going to draw haters because those of you who are fans of the sympathetic nervous system really feel like that's the nervous system response of heroes. And I'm here to tell you no, you just haven't given your parasympathetic nervous system a chance. What I'm talking about here are fight and flight versus freeze. They're all part of the autonomic nervous system, which is part of the stress cycle, which gives your body the cues. That's the deep down, way below the level of conscious awareness system in your body that makes the choice in a moment of stress. Fight, flight, or freeze. There's also fawn. I'm not talking about that. Give me just like simplicity and clarity here. Freeze is the parasympathetic nervous system's response to stress. And we all celebrate fight and flight, the sympathetic nervous system, the go, the action, the do, the fight, the run. We celebrate and tell stories of heroes who face conflict and danger, and they respond by fighting or by, running away and escaping. And that's a noble way to respond to a stressful situation. And we think of freeze, the parasympathetic nervous system response. We think of it as wimpy or like fake. We don't even believe really that it exists. There was one of those CGI movies with animal cartoons. It was Bruce Willis as a raccoon and had William Shatner as a possum. And you know how possums play dead and like it's this dramatic acting fake out thing that they do? I hate that because it's not a dramatic fake out. The sympathetic nervous system makes you fight or flight whether you want to or not. The parasympathetic nervous system shuts down your nervous system. You can't move. It's not a choice. Your nervous system responded spontaneously with its deep wisdom about the situation and makes that call without you. You don't have conscious control over it immediately in that moment. So, for example, fight or flight. You're being mugged on the street. And we all love a story of, guy comes up to grab a lady's purse and the lady has a black belt in Taekwondo and she kicks his ass. And there was a video that I saw on, somewhere of a server at a restaurant who was groped, like some random customer just grabbed her ass and she turned around and just punched him. That kind of reaction is often not thought through, because if we really thought through the consequences of like punching a customer, we might not do it. It's spontaneous reflex. Similarly, the parasympathetic nervous response of freeze is also a spontaneous reflex that it's not a choice that you made in your brain. It's a choice your body made deep in your spinal cord. Kind of. Anyway, here's where freeze is a hero. Imagine yourself in the environment of evolutionary adaptiveness, sort of savannas of Africa, and there's a lion who's the predator, and you are like a proto-prey animal, some deep ancestor of a gazelle or something. You are running with your herd, and you stumble, and you get caught. Lion comes and chomps on you. Can you, as a proto-gazelle, continue to run now? No. There's big slices in the big muscles that make you run. Can you, as a proto-gazelle, fight? Do you have teeth or claws? I mean, you got hooves, but you also have, like, cuts in the muscle that would help you to kick strongly. Like, you cannot fight or flee. Those are not options. The option that you have, though, is your parasympathetic nervous system, which says freeze. And you play dead, but you're not playing. Your nervous system has shut your body down so that you can't move. And it's important that it does that because, when you start thinking it through, you might be like, I should get out of here. This is still dangerous. But when Freeze is a hero is when the lion, satisfied that it has caught its meal for the day, goes back to her den to bring her cubs back to go get, their dinner as well. And in that moment when the lion is gone, the proto-gazelle starts to shake and shimmer. This is the sympathetic nervous response kicking back in and giving it that fight or flight energy, that forward, that go. And it just comes out as just like random movements. And then you can get up, the proto-gazelle, can get up and leave and escape while nobody's looking. But we don't celebrate that story. We have a culture that celebrates the sympathetic nervous system, fight, mostly fight, and flight is also okay because at least you're doing something. But if you're a survivor of assault and you froze, you might feel more ashamed of that response than of a fight or flight response. If you are a survivor of trauma and you fought or you fled and you took proactive steps to save your life, you might be okay with telling that story, with sharing it with others, with going through the process openly that you need to go through to recover from trauma. But if you froze, people say, well, why didn't you run? Well, why didn't you fight back? And the shame that is associated with freeze is unconscionable, and we need to quit it. Freeze is a goddamn hero. If you were being assaulted and you fought back, and then the perpetrator decides, oh, they're fighting back, so now I need to up the stakes, and then they pull out a knife, and now you really are in helpless, hopeless trouble. But if you freeze, your nervous system has made a choice that it thinks is the safest choice to save your life. Your body saved your life. Freeze is a hero. I remember when I was 4 years old, I fell into the pool in the backyard and I didn't know how to swim, and I sank to the bottom and sat there, and I thought, oh, I'm gonna die now. I didn't move. I didn't thrash. I didn't try to swim. And would anybody say to a 4-year-old, well, why didn't you try to swim, honey? Well, she's 4. She's 4. She's just responding naturally to the nerve. My babysitter reached in and hauled me out by the back of my dress. So I was fine. If I had been thrashing around and stuff, would he have been able to grab me and pull me out? If I'd been like, he'd have been like, calm down, I can't reach you. Could well have been more dangerous if I hadn't froze. That babysitter's name was Ross, and he lived down the street from us. And to this day, he's the only babysitter whose name I remember because he freaking saved my life. But before Ross saved my life, Freeze saved me. Stopped me from trying to breathe underwater. Just shut me down. Saved me. Protected me. Freeze wears a cape and a unitard and has some kind of awesome mask and is always standing by, on guard, to save you. Just like fight and flight. They're part of you. And we undervalue freeze because we think that it's doing nothing. It's not doing nothing. It's actively protecting you. Now, I have heard some truly shitty people respond to the idea of assault when somebody fought back and that shitty person just says, well, I mean, at that point, why don't you just go with it? That is an actual thing that I heard an actual person say. That person was fired from their position because they said that in a professional context. And that person was still confused as to why that was a fireable offense. Because first of all, let's not judge anybody for how their autonomic nervous system responds to stress and trauma. Nobody should be telling anybody, well, why didn't you respond in some different way? But in the big picture, the autonomic response that gets the most hate is freeze. It's not really so much hate as shame, as discomfort, as bafflement. Why didn't I try to fight? Why didn't I just run? What happened to me? I just froze. Soldiers in the battlefield say it happened to them. Survivors of all kinds of assaults say it happened to them. It's an equal opportunity autonomic nervous response. Your autonomic nervous system chooses below the level of conscious awareness. Way back 5 minutes ago when I first started recording videos, one of the first things I talked about was completing the stress response cycle. And that is the sympathetic nervous system responding with fight or flight, glucocorticoids and adrenaline and cortisol and stuff to prepare you to go, to do, to, take action. And freeze is the parasympathetic nervous system. And it does result in that same kind of trapped response where all those chemicals and electrical signals are still in your body. Remember that part of the story where the proto-gazelle shakes and vibrates and trembles and then escapes? That is, we call it in the book, the feels. By the way, my name is Amelia Nagoski, and I am co-author of the book, Burnout: The Secret to Completing the Stress Response Cycle. And in that book, we talk about the feels. The feels is the release of the same way the same way fight or flight would be the completion of a stress response cycle. It happens in this spontaneous, uncontrollable way. If you've ever witnessed someone who's been in a car accident or something, they often lay still on the ground and people are like, oh my God, they're dead. No, they're frozen, because what can they do? And then they start to tremble and shake. And some EMTs have training to let that happen. And some EMTs try to strap them down so they don't do it, which is how you cause PTSD, because you're trapping all the feelings in the body instead of letting them flood through. Whatever. If you've experienced freeze and shortly thereafter you talked about it, you punched it out of the punching bag, you ran your ass off to complete that, so you feel like you're purged of it, then you know what the feels is. The thing is that we're less likely to notice with freeze because we think, I didn't do anything, so now there's nothing to do. There is still so much to do. But unfortunately, the shame and the stigma of freeze prevents us from being as willing to seek help. I really, really want everyone to know freeze is a powerful, strong, protective response. It is nothing to be ashamed of. It is nothing to feel like your body didn't do what it was supposed to do. Your body protected you. And when someone says, oh my God, I just froze, congratulate them. Be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Your body saved you. The same way if somebody says, I punched that asshole in the face, you would say good for you, girl. He deserved it, right? If they say, I just froze, I don't know what happened, you say, oh, you froze. That's amazing. Your body is so amazing. It protected you. We really need to change the way we talk about freeze. It's a hero. Let's lift it back up. Okay, that's all for today. People from the olden days will notice that I am back in my barn, and you're going to see the details of that tomorrow.